Sir, first off, congratulations. You guys kicked ass with the Conjuring and the Last Rites, right? So I want to know, with this being called the final movie in the main saga, how did you approach balancing a satisfying conclusion while still leaving space for future spin-offs or expansions?
The I think the big driving emotion of the movie was I was like, it's going to be this emotion of just letting go of the series, like letting go of these characters, and I think that that was kind of the big spine and just like the emotional experience that people would have with the movie. And I think I wanted to try and capture that in the story. And it always ended with Judy's wedding, which feels like just a great, example of like, saying goodbye to your child. You're kind of letting your child go into the world and start their own life and, their own family. And and so that was always kind of the guiding emotional story, concept. And the big thing I added onto it was the that opening scene, the scene of her birth, which I feel like just kind of bookended that whole story and just allowed us to really, bring the focus onto Judy and this kind of high stakes birth and once you come out of that you're even more almost in like Finding Nemo style. You're kind of like more precious about this child, like of course the Warrens are, but also as an audience member you've been through hell, you almost lost her, so now you're like you're not going to let her go. And I think that just that journey of just because nobody wants something to end. I think that's the reason that like even movies and TV series, I think they sometimes struggle with
Yeah.
that final installment, not so much because it's so hard to tell that story, but it's sometimes people just don't want to let go.
hmm
And you're fighting that. And so I was like, if we can just make the whole journey and the whole emotional story about letting go, then, maybe it'll make it a little sweeter, a little bit, more cohesive.
Well, I find the Conjuring universe to be very fascinating because it's sort of become like a superhero franchise in its own right, right? Of like the superhero franchise of like supernatural horror or something. When you're directing Patrick and Vera, do you think about how much these characters have come to define their careers and what that means for like a final chapter?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do too. I think that they're really grateful for being on this journey, just like I am. I mean,
Yeah.
the series has really has changed their lives, just like it's changed my life. And so and it's fun to see them change, and they're just the little additions that they're wanting to bring to the characters. And just like, yeah, I remember on like Conjuring 3 where Patrick was like, I'm gonna have reading glasses. I'm gonna start wearing reading glasses. And I was like, huh. So Patrick, I mean, Ed's getting older, Ed is, and
It's
it was
it's
just
funny that you say
great.
that too, because like I like when that's the most unbelievable thing about this film is like not the supernatural stuff, but that Patrick as Ed is having health problems. I'm like, look at he's such a fit guy in his 50s. There's no way this guy's got cholesterol issues. No, one thing I wanted to bring up, most horror franchises eventually burn out or they see diminishing returns. But the Conjuring universe seems to grow with each film. So, what do you think it is about these stories or the way that you guys approach them that keeps audiences coming back in greater numbers?
I think it's a tribute to the characters in the story. I think that, people love Patrick and Vera. I think that that is um, they love the characters they've created, and I think just being on this journey with them is I think that's what brings people back without a doubt. I mean, I think there's other things too. I wish I could take more credit. I wish I could say it's me, they're coming back to see my genius. But I think the reality is
But I
it's
mean,
these
it's
characters.
important. I mean, you're the captain of that ship, right? I mean, you've got to keep the ship afloat. So, I mean, you deserve a pat on the back too.
I think the biggest thing and the thing that I think I do really well is I surround myself with really smart, talented people, and I just give them a safe place to work. And that's so much is like, that's I think the biggest job is like is letting letting people, giving people a safe place to do their magic, to like get great performances and
Right.
build these great characters.
Well, knowing what you know now with the box office and everything and the way Hollywood works, I mean, Do you truly believe that we have seen the last of Patrick and Vera as the Warrens?
Oh, it's done, Chris. Come on. It is done.
Yeah, you
It's
okay.
done. There, this is the final
See,
chapter.
we have such a hard time letting go.
That's why we call it Last Rites. It's the last one. There's no other Conjuring movies. It is absolutely the end.
All right, all right. Well, then if you say so, as hard as it is to hear that. I want to know, knowing that the Warrens had at least 1,000 cases, were there any real Warren investigations or hauntings or lore that you wanted to bring to the screen but couldn't for whatever reason?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think that it gets narrowed down pretty quickly when you start looking at the cases, because I think especially with this one, we took a big swing on Conjuring 3. I mean, we're trying to go from like something that like broke the mold. I think that was it was great in a way that it made people hunger to return to the classic format. And I think that especially with this last one, you want to return to a haunted house. So many of their cases aren't haunted house stories. It's, there's such a wide variety of the things they got into. And I think definitely for this one, I think what I wanted and what I hoped and thought fans wanted was really a return to a good haunted house story. So it kind of like narrowed in very quickly to the Smurls.
Well, over the course of multiple Conjuring films, how do you feel like your approach to scares or pacing and visual style sort of evolve, especially going from like three to four?
Learning restraint, I mean, learning just patience. I think that so much what makes a really great scare and a really great sequence is a real confidence and a real patience.
Mhm.
And I think that's um, it's an art. It's like really just kind of like knowing how long you can draw people in and just like really having the because it's like also with great scares and I think great sequences is there's like a musicality to it, or
Yeah.
and I think just really thinking about that and really um
I find it's a lot like comedy, right? It's timing.
totally.
A lot of it, yeah. Now that Last Rites closes this chapter, where would you personally love to see the Conjuring universe go next, if anywhere? And for you, do you feel like you're done in this world, or are there still stories within it that you'd like to explore and tell?
The in terms of where it goes next, again, this is the last one. It doesn't go anywhere
I just
except
mean as far as like spin-offs and things like that. I'm not talking about Patrick and Vera. I know that they're done.
I what I can say in terms of like being involved is like I've really loved working on the series. It is like the absolute Venn diagram of everything that I love, minus robots. If there was robots in it, it would basically check every single box of like everything that I love. Um, I love this series, and I would if there was any more, I would totally love to be involved. But it's the type of thing where it's the end. So, there's
Yeah.
no more. It's the absolute end.
Well, now that this is over and The Conjuring is kaput, what do you hope audiences will remember the most about the Conjuring series?
I think one of the things and one of the discussions we had going into this movie was this could have been a series that would have just could have just kept on going,
Mhm.
and just kind of like we could have just strip mined it into existence, the or into non-existence. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
the idea was like we wanted to end on our own terms, and I think that was really important. And I was a huge fan of I'm still a huge fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. I thought it was such a great series. And that series just kind of kept on going until they just stopped making them. And I think having an ending is it's hard to land those endings, but I think just telling a complete story was something that was really important to myself, to everybody involved.